One of the challenges with scaling a construction business is bridging that gap between hiring someone and actually getting them up to speed so they're an asset for your business as quickly as possible. In this video, I'm actually going to go through exactly how I do that for this commercial contractor. And I've done the same process for residential contractors, remodelers, electricians, you name it, I've done it. And it works because what happens is that if you are trying to free up your time and you're hiring somebody to do a role that you currently as the owner are doing. So most owners I work with, they're wearing all these hats and they've got to give that hat to somebody else and have somebody else take ownership and wear that hat. Most of the time, we just dump the hat on there. They don't know how to wear the hat, and then we have to get the hat back on because it's not working. In this video, I'm actually going to go through exactly how to delegate that hat, create clarity on all the systems and processes related to this job description, and then therefore it's related to their job and their position, and how to actually streamline this entire process. This is not specifically for wanting a new process about something. This is a process that is specifically designed to help pull the information from your head and create clarity in the process. Once you have clarity, you have profitability. But when there's muddled chaos, that's when your profits go down the drain like nobody's business. And so when I help contractors put these types of SOPs or standard operating procedures in their business, they end up having trainings go down from 90 days down to 30 days. In fact, on average, it's 90 to 120 days for somebody to get up to speed. But by doing this process, it cuts that down to 30 days or even less. It reduces callbacks, it reduces warranty work, and the employees that actually do it this way love this process and they actually start following it, which implementation is everything. Like I said, I'm going to walk through this process. You can do an over the shoulder look on how to actually do this. So that way you can take your job description and turn it into an amazing manual for that employee, the playbook for that employee very, very rapidly. Now, if you don't have a job description for the position that you want to hire for, then just drop a line below and I can share with you my job description chatbot that I've created that is literally how this contractor was able to create a job description so fast. And then I'm going to help him turn this into an SOP. So let's dive right in. Now, if we haven't met yet, I'm Liz Chism and I help contractors do three things. Help them get a team so that they can free up their time and scale their business. I help them with their operations, so streamlining all their processes and systems so that way they can scale rapidly, and then get in the marketing systems in place so that way they can actually get the lead flow that their business can handle because everything is streamlined and they have the right team in place. If you want more videos on how to do any of those three things, then just subscribe to this channel and you can be notified every single time I put out a new video helping contractors create profitably scaling businesses. Now let's dive right in. The first thing is that this position actually has two different phases. The first phase is going to be managing an entire single project. Now, typically they have not done projects as large as this one, or the owner has done all of the project management on this. And so therefore, this project manager is not going to be doing all these other little things in this company. They're literally focused on one job. So because of that position, we actually have a phase one of during this project, this is actually your role. And then phase two, because we know that we'll be growing, that you're going to actually move into a slightly different position based off of the jobs that are coming in and how the schedule is looking out for over the next year. Now, like I mentioned, this is for a commercial contractor, so there are larger projects. This is TI improvements. This same exact strategy works for residential contractors and all sorts of other types of businesses. I have done it for years and it works. Like I said, here's the position summary. So these are the different things that they'll be doing. I don't really need it for the SOP, but I do like to leave it in there just as a high level. Did I include everything that needs to be included? I'm going to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to do. Here is the job description. I'm going to ask questions and create clarity on every single point of that job description. So that way there is no ambiguity. Then the owner, because all of the stuff is in his brain, can dump it out. Now, if I told, and I've done this before I learned how to do this, if I told an owner, a contractor, hey, can you go write me an SOP for a project management person? They would not actually do a very good job. In fact, studies show that they probably only will get about 2 to 3% of the information out of their head and onto a piece of paper so somebody else can do it. So then what typically happens is the owner just brain dumps, I call it the information throw up, onto the new hire. And then the new hire is an information overload that can't handle all that information within a short period amount of time. And so then they end up dropping information so they can't actually retain all the things that they need to know. And then there's this frustration right from the beginning. And then it takes that project manager or whatever position it is a very long time to actually get up to speed in the business, because they're like, well, what did you remember? And what did you not remember? And what got forgotten? And how much of this information did you retain? And so all of that's going to be solved by doing this process. So when I actually go and ask all these questions, I'm actually giving a framework to pull out the information in a way that can then be utilized in ChatGPT to create all the SOPs. I'm not going to really deal with this job summary right here. I'm going to go down to this part because this is really important for that. So this first one is superintendent duties. Now this is going to be kind of a dual role, which is why there's a phase 1 and a phase 2. We're not going to get into phase 2 in this video, but they're going to be on site and doing some superintendent duties as well as project management duties, but they're not going to be managing multiple projects at once. And so they will have that ability to do both. So it's be on site with some contractors. So I'm going to do this. Okay. And I'm going to add a comment. Now there's a shortcut for comments is Control-Alt-M, or you can just come up here to this little comment button and add a comment. So then I'm going to say what time, because this is going to be very important to have a schedule of what time are they supposed to be on the job site. Again, you're probably going to remember this as you hire them and you're like, okay, you need to start at 7 every morning, but you brain dump all of that onto a new hire and they're going to lose information. So we're just going to put all the information here, create a nice SOP, everything's going to be great, and then they can have the information that they need to thrive in this position. Okay, so then it says coordinate with building owner and tenant representatives, ensure tight quality control over schedule. So I'm going to say, okay, well, if you're going to coordinate, how is that actually going to happen? Like, what does the coordination look like? That is a question that I'm going to ask. What happens is that the owner who has all this information in their head, it goes, oh, they need to be on this, they need to do this, and they answer all of this, and then I can take that and turn it into an SOP. Or you can throw it into ChatGPT and have it turn into SOP, but this is all the information that's needed. If we're going to talk about quality control over schedules and things like that, it's like, okay, well, where's this schedule going to be? And who's going to create the schedule? And how often is it going to be reviewed? All of those details are necessary for somebody to get up to speed quickly, because if they know all of this, they can do their job well right from the gate, and that learning curve is literally shrunk in half or more. So again, like, what is it in mind? Because what the project manager may think that they need help with is a ton of help versus what was budgeted. And it's like, oh, if you just need help with a couple of little things, again, we're creating clarity. So if you notice, one bullet point had 4 different questions to it, but you answer all of these and you now have that SOP and the nuts and bolts and the framework for that SOP. And again, this is specifically designed to pull the information out of your head. Let's see, we're going to run some meetings. So again, I'm just asking questions. I'm just staying curious about this because I really don't know. And ChatGPT wouldn't even know what does it mean to run the meetings. So that way, once you answer all of this, and it doesn't have to be perfect, you just answer it. Now we can create that SOP. So I'm going to keep going. I like to ask this question a lot. Like, what would it look like if I'm a fly on the wall? Because a lot of times we have these concepts that we talk about and we train in concepts, but concepts don't actually train very well. We want boots on the ground. We want to say, okay, what does it actually look like? So when I talk about like culture, for instance, with different companies, they're like, oh, we all get along. What does it actually look like to get along? What does the physically movement, the actions look like to get along, instead of just this like, well, we get along. Well, you could get along with somebody that you don't really like. So is that the culture you want to create? So instead of doing these concepts on different things, then we're breaking it down to the nuts and bolts of the details of, okay, what is it actually going to look like if I was a fly on the wall? Like, I want to be able to see what it looks like to have this done. This is probably going to be answered in some of those other ones, so I'm not going to go there. Okay, coordinate directly with owner-supplied vendors. Okay, manage on-site safety and documentation. So specifically talking about pictures, there's a couple of different things for pictures. One, you want to document the quality that you're doing on the job site. And the other one is that you want to be able to post about it and use it in your social media, in your LinkedIn, in various things. So that way you can continue to advertise your business while you're doing business. And so taking daily photos is a very great idea, but if you don't put some guidelines around it, then there can be a lot of confusion. So I know specifically that this contractor has a virtual assistant that's going to be taking those photos, but the project manager who's going to be hired for this position does not know that. So that is why I'm asking those questions instead of just making these assumptions. Having assumptions is really what increases that gap between having a job description and having somebody who's up to speed and an asset to your business. I'm going to post this. This is probably pretty self-explanatory. I know the specific person. They're very familiar with this type of thing. So if you were going to be hiring somebody who'd never worked in construction, obviously they wouldn't be in a project management role, but you kind of have to think like, is this something that they would know, or is this something that I need to actually explicitly Explain. This one's pretty easy. Okay, so this one is a huge one because safety on job sites is very important, especially in commercial, because you're typically dealing with larger buildings or larger pieces of equipment versus a bathroom remodel. So knowing about this, and we had a whole safety manual when I owned a brewery, and we had safety meetings every single month because we wanted to maintain a safe environment. And so there's different topics that you need to talk about. So like, for instance, at the brewery, we had a forklift. And so we had training around a forklift. Now, if we didn't have a forklift, we wouldn't really need to have training around a forklift. So what are the specific topics that need to be talked about? If you're dealing with a high rise, you're going to have different safety meetings than if you're dealing with a ground floor, single story type place. So those are the types of things that need to be explained of like, hey, this is what we need to talk about in the safety meetings to create a safe environment. Okay, so this is really important. This is the KPI. This is really where the rubber is going to meet the road. And you don't want this to be a babysitting, micromanaging type of relationship. You want this to be a reporting note of saying, hey, look at all the amazing, awesome things we did this week or this today, and this is where we are on track and on schedule. So again, how are these check-ins done? Like, is it a quick text message? Is it a conversation? Now, for a daily check-in, those can be a phone, an email, a text, a quick check-in, a daily log. Those are totally all fine. However, on the weekly ones, you actually want to be able to sit down and, okay, make sure that we're on schedule for everything. So as far as project status, you're going to want to make sure that it's actually on time against the schedule. And then for the subcontractor coordination, there we go. So as far as communicating with the client, we need to make sure it's very crystal clear of what you're going to communicate and what you're not going to communicate. And then what is this client actually expecting as far as communication. So this is all going to go into this. And so that way, when it's crystal clear, again, everybody knows what they're doing and they will actually take a huge burden off of you, give you that freedom and help you build your business because they know how to actually not only meet your expectations, but exceed them. So then we have the project management duties. So that was all related to them being kind of a superintendent on the job just for the specific job. Now we've got their project management duties, which are going to be a little bit different because they're going to be doing two different roles, but we wanted to separate them because when we separate them, we can now delegate different roles to different people instead of just mushing it all together and calling it a project manager. And then there's a lot of ambiguity in that. Obviously, that's pretty self-explanatory. We should do this. So again, we've got to pull that information out of the owner's brain of what does it actually look like for him from his perspective on what busy work looks like, or those administrative tasks or the data entry tasks, like those types of things. Yes, his virtual assistant can totally 100% do that. If this project manager has not worked with a virtual assistant before, then again, there can be some confusion or there could be some just, oh, I'll just do it myself because I don't know if they'll be able to do it. And it's like, no, they do know how to do it. You just need to let them know to do it. All of these questions are going to pull that information out and go, oh yeah, this is what should be delegated. This is what should be not delegated. And this is how we're going to delegate it. I delegate things to my virtual assistants via Slack. And then we list everything out in Asana so that we can keep track of all of that. And so it's like, hey, if it's just a quick little thing, it's like, hey, can you do this real quick? I just Slack it over. But then if it's like, okay, here's this whole project, then I create an Asana task for it. So that way that back and forth and all the information that we need, it's all in one place. I'm just asking those questions to create clarity. You answer these questions and boom, you have an SOP and you have it so well put out that whoever you're hiring can get up to speed quickly. So obviously I could keep going through this, but this video is already long enough. But I want you to be able to see that when you do this, and you answer the questions, then you can create the systems and processes for everything. Now, one of the things that this also does is that it will show you what you don't have systemized, like, well, I make it up all the time, or well, it depends. And that's where we actually need to put in the systems and processes in your business. But it all starts with a job description. Again, if you want that job description, then just drop a line below and I would be happy to send you my ChatGPT prompts. So that way you can build your job description, use this process and get everybody up to speed quickly so you can grow and scale your business. See you in the next one.